who really are poor and also working poor. And it was important for me to make that more visible because
This is a privilege. It's a joy to be speaking today with Jasmin Gordon, the director and co-writer of The Courageous. Jasmin, thank you so much for the time.
thank you for inviting me.
Honestly, this film is beautiful. It is a beautiful, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching piece. Just phenomenal across the board. Where did it come from?
Um, so I feel like there are three different origins for this film. One is biographical. I mean, I have women like this in my past, in my family. Some things come from my experience as a mother,
Mm.
but there also are lots of themes that I wanted to discuss that I see in the world and that, that bother me and that I feel like need to be talked about. And then there also is a good portion of fiction. So it's sort of a big a collage of these different elements.
Well, it really is amazing. And I was wondering if you could talk to me about a little bit about, I mean, you say some of it's from your own life. You don't have to share those things, but the experience of the working poor.
Mm.
Um, because this is quite honestly a story we don't see usually in this way. You know, here's a woman who is trying to live her life and pretend that there's nothing wrong, even though we know her world is falling apart. But and so. Um, in preparation for this film, what is it about the experience of the working poor that you wanted to bring to light?
Well, I think also living in a country like Switzerland where everyone is extremely comfortable. It's a
Mm,
very affluent country. But we do have people who live sort of below the standard of poverty. I mean, who really are poor and also working poor. And it was important for me to make that more visible because we don't like to talk about it. It's sort of taboo. And there really are a lot of people who have complicated, complicated destiny, even in a country like ours. So that was one of the major reasons why I wanted to tell this story. And then also, my great grandmother was a woman who had a child outside of marriage, and she really had a very difficult life because of that. So that was an inspiration for me as well, to talk about women who fall into poverty because they don't follow the rules. Um, that's still relevant today, unfortunately.
absolutely. And you know, one of the things we see with Jules's character is the power of shame, but it's almost like I don't know, it's an interesting relationship. Now, there are characters who are deliberately holding her back. There are others that don't seem to know that they are. We see the pressure on her to conform. I was wondering in your mind, you know, as you see a character like this, do you think culturally we lack compassion or we place shame on people that I mean certainly don't deserve to have not that whether or not people deserve shame put on them is a whole other question, but certainly a person like Jules who is just struggling to get by.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really something that I think about a lot is the lack of empathy, that has always been here and continues to be here in many societies, and that people like Jules would really have a much easier time if people could, see her for who she is, someone who's really doing her best and who's trying to raise her kids as best she can, someone who doesn't give up on her dreams, someone who is also willing to rebel against existing structures or things that are not that she doesn't think are fair. So I find her in a way very inspirational. I mean, I'm always rooting for her as a character.
I love that you put it that way because there's never a moment where we're not well rooting for her through this film. Even when she makes decisions we don't necessarily want her to make. or hope that she makes. We are hoping the best for her in those moments, because we empathize with her the entire time, which I think is so beautiful. And of course, without giving away the ending, the one of my favorite one of my favorite punches that I've seen on screen all year, uh, so far. I mean, it's a great shot. Um,
Hmm.
but it's interesting. There's a conversation that takes place with Jules and her daughter, about her being the perfect mother. And I was wondering, in your mind, what makes Jules a good mother? Maybe not the or the perfect mother.
I think that she is a good mother because she loves her kids.
Hmm.
She doesn't give up on them. And because honestly, she's doing her best, even if we don't understand the decisions she makes, or I mean, I question a lot of the things she does. I find that her constant lying is something that I really have major issues with. Um, but I think that as someone who's doing her maximum and always being full of love for her kids, like I feel like that really is, I mean, that for me is being a good mom, not a perfect mom, which I don't know if anyone can really be. But the film really was also about sort of questioning that, like, what is a perfect mom? Do we have to be perfect? Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of, in my research, I was trying to find films with images of mothers that somehow could inspire me. And I felt it very difficult to find people who had sort of um, this rebellion and this sense of strength and someone that I also could look up to and be like, hey, life is tough, but I see that you're really, trying to make a way for your kids and for yourself. So that it sort of was, I wanted to add to this discussion about women in general, but specifically mothers, images of mothers, and try to make a figure that's maybe more complex, someone who's in this gray zone between morality and immorality, while not throwing her to the dogs, but really sort of loving her in this sort of very complex gray zone.
In that spirit, I was wondering too, your thoughts. I mean, or in your research, of course, of social organizations in Switzerland, or how do we help families like this? Because we see her trying, but roadblock after roadblock. And I know in Canada and in the US, where I've worked with some families in similar situations, they find those roadblocks, and it's very difficult to break through. What did you find as you were preparing this film, about social organizations in Switzerland?
It's been interesting also now in the promotion of the film that we had quite a few partners that were sort of social organizations that help families. So it was also very eye-opening for me to see all the things that they try to do also.
Mm,
But one of the things that they said to me that really is sort of across the board, I think this is universal, is that people in these situations often don't try to get help. There really is, I mean, it takes a very long time, I think, until people feel like I really can ask for help. I think, your pride, losing your pride and your sense of self, I think is the last thing that you want to do. So I feel like our character, Jules, she goes very, very far to an extreme when logically you look at her and think, well, why didn't she go and ask for help earlier? Like she could have probably avoided a lot of trouble if she would have just, asked for help. And I think that really is something that was quite eye-opening for me is that, that's just a fact. Um, People want to be respected. They want to be seen as doing a good job. And I think that, and being a good mom. And so apparently that really is something that happens a lot. But the social system here in Switzerland is really quite good. But despite that, there really always are um, just holes and gaps where people sort of fall between the cracks. And I guess one of the reasons is exactly that, because if you are not willing to tell people that you need help, um, yeah, it's just really hard to these two things connect. The people who are here to help you and the people who need help. You really there's a difficulty finding each other.
And I think that goes back to the culture of shame as well. You know, like you said, that's expectation that you need to be a certain thing, or you need to be at a certain status. Um, you know, I without getting into it, some of the families I've worked with, I know have been homeless, and their kids will walk an extra 40 minutes so that their families don't know, so that their friends, sorry, don't know that they're living in a homeless shelter. There's this fear of that because of those expectations. It's heartbreaking. Um, but I wanted to ask you about this too. Is one of the phrases and one of the things that I think it's Jules reads it in a book. Those who are courageous are free. And I was wondering how, since the film is called The Courageous, how you feel a phrase like that applies to Jules and her family.
Um, the title came quite late for us, but it really sort of was in the end the most natural one because I really feel like often these people in these families are seen only as victims or seen sort of in this negative light. And I really wanted to give them strength and say, hey, they really are courageous, actually. They're not just, victims who somehow lost their way, but they really are people who are extremely brave and extremely strong. So that was the reason that I used that in the title as well.
I love that, and I love that thought too, because I think, like you said, is there's never a moment where we don't believe in Jules, even when she's doing things we would hope that she wouldn't have to resort to, but we are always rooting for her, and there's a strength in her, even with her daughter, adding almost a blessing on her about her talking about how good she is as a mother. Um, because her character is so strong, she has a fire in her.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That was really important to me.
What was it about Ophelia? I hope I'm pronouncing her name well. That you believed that she was your Jules.
She was actually the first person that I saw in my casting process, and the first and the last person, the only person, because when I saw her and she came in to do a couple of scenes, like it was so clear to me that she was Jules. She really brings basically, I knew that this character might not be easy because she's so complex, and a lot of people will not like her because of that, because she really sort of provokes our idea of what a mother should be or what a good mother should be. So I really needed to find an actress who brought sort of this something luminous, something very warm and charming to this role, because otherwise, like, I don't know, we would probably lose half the audience. So that was something that I looked for, and Ophelia really has all of that. And in addition to that, she's really a tremendous talent. So it really was just love at first sight. She's also a lovely person. So yeah, I really didn't, it was very easy actually.
She's so good in this film. She really is wonderful. Um, Honestly, Jasmine, The Courageous is a beautiful piece. What do you hope people take away from their experience with The Courageous?
Um, that's always a difficult question for me to answer, but I feel like having more empathy in general with people is something that I feel all of us could work on.
Hmm.
Um, People who are different in all sorts of ways. I think that really is something that's important. And also that we, especially in these times of political upheaval, that we all try to be a little bit more courageous in our lives in general.
Absolutely. I appreciate that so much, and I really appreciate your time to chat about the film because it's remarkable. Thank you so much for the time. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.